All right, welcome back to the program. And of course, we just want to delve straight away into the big conversations in the country this morning. I told you what will be forming the main discussion today is the quagmire currently at the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. But before we get there, we'll also be looking at some main headlines on the front pages this morning. And I'm having a sit down this morning with a panel of gentlemen already in studio this morning. We have Mheshimiwa James Nyikal. He is the Member of Parliament for Seme constituency, also sits at the National Assembly Health Committee. We have with us Titus Lote, the Member of Parliament for Kacheliba constituency. And also with us, we have Dismas Mokua, a political risk analyst. Asante, gentlemen, for creating time. Also expecting Peter Masara, the Member of Parliament for Suna West constituency. He should be joining us in the course of this discussion. So, gentlemen, I'm just looking at what has been highlighted on the front pages of the dailies this morning. Just looking at the Daily Nation, this actually touches on your docket, Mheshimiwa Nyikal, the mystery supplier that is highlighted there as a supplier to get share billions of shillings. Of course, what is emerging is the transition from what was the medical MES, let me call it that, and now we have this new National Equipment Service project that seems to be like sort of like a same script, a different cast scenario. If you look at what has been highlighted on page 4 of this paper, it's taking us into the depth of what seems not to be changing much, because under MES, the country parted with 63 billion shillings in what was shrouded in secrecy to date. But now what we are currently under is that the National Equipment Service Project is going to see counties sign multi-billion shillings deal with the Health Ministry to lease equipment from the mystery supplier. So my question is centered around the mystery and the questions, and seems like we've not moved or learned any lessons with regards to the challenges that we experienced under MES. I don't know what your concerns would be looking at this story this morning, and probably what would be your recommendation on how best to address the issue of medical equipment in the country.
I'm actually sad that this is going on, because I had the opportunity to see the beginning of, I don't know whether opportunity or misfortune, to see the beginning of MES. And we actually advised, and I remember at the time, I was again in the health committee, and there are issues we said needed to be done in terms of contracting before it was signed as a committee. I think the minister at that time went ahead and signed them. And definitely the problems we were worried about, particularly in terms of payment and the relationship with the counties, came to be. And even at the end of MES, it's up to now, it's not clear to me, even to, we've had meetings with the ministry, and how did it end? Those equipments, what happened to them? Who owns them now? If they are working now, how are they being serviced? So even MES really, in a way, has not ended. And this has started basically the same way. I remember it's actually linked to the information system that's also still a problem with SHA, because when we were inquiring how it came to be that we are going through that procurement of that information system, we were actually informed at the committee level that there was permission under some permitted procurement system that actually allowed this and allowed the health information system, and I think even allowed the primary care equipment. So it seemed to have been one thing. The 104 billion in the health information system, even this, I think the procurement system at the very beginning is attached. But again, why not just actually allow the counties to buy or get in direct contact with those equipment suppliers? I don't understand. We're still going to get this because we haven't gone into the depth of this as a health committee. And definitely, we knew it was in the offing, Now it is up. We look at it. I don't know whether it's perhaps too late. But from what I'm seeing superficially, it will be exactly the same arrangement as the mess equipment.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, that begs the question, Mheshimiwa, what justifies this transition? Because if he says, seems like we are not moving, we've not learned any lesson, the same challenges that were under the MES, seems to have been transferred to this. And my interest is even in the secrecy, because as a health committee, he's saying that they are yet to even break ground when it comes to understanding the nitty-gritties of this, the details of this deal. What are your concerns as well from this?
Well, thank you and good morning.
Good morning.
Well, the first thing is they say you can change the forest, but the monkeys are the same. We are changing policies, but we are not changing the people that are supposed to manage these policies. And I think that is where the problem is. So even when we've got very good intentions to move this country from one point to another one, we always find that we are dealing with the same people that had the same tricks with the previous policies. And so when we talk about moving to SHA, when we are talking about moving from NES, whether we are moving from NHIF, anything else that we are doing in this country is we keep on the same people that have been learned through the system. So they have actually known the tricks. And the reason why the National Assembly has gotten it very difficult even to unravel some of the issues that are taken on in the ministries and in our health sectors. So I think we will move out of this once we also clear the people that have actually been in the system. And my proposal will be, if we actually are going for very noble ideas, very noble principles, very noble policies, such as moving from NHIF to SHA, we also have people that are coming with fresh blood, so that we have fresh blood and fresh policies and fresh systems. Otherwise, we will have the same monkeys, then move to a different forest, and they'll behave the same. That is where the problem is.
That is where the problem is. This is just also for you to weigh in. The reason we said SHA will be reaping billions under this is because of the arrangement of payment that has been issued by the Ministry of Health. Now, the leasing fees will consume most of the money, and of course paid by the Social Health Authority on behalf of thousands of patients. Now, the proposed plan by the Health Ministry has seen some facilities already threatening to increase the cost of service to meet the cost of leasing the equipment under NESP. So the cost that they will experience at the facility will then be transferred to the patients themselves. In the wake of what you're saying, the universal health coverage, healthcare, affordable healthcare for all, I mean, what does this look like?
Well, thanks for the opportunity. And as anybody who has studied Kenyan procurement into detail will come to one fact, that it's largely vendor-driven. Even in the last program, the county governors indicated that they were forced to accept equipment, not that their counties needed the equipment. There was no needs assessment. So it appears the case that we are just vendor-driven or cartel-driven. That everything that maybe the national government and county governments procure is not really meant to serve the needs and interests or aspirations of the citizens, in this case patients, but some special cartels, special interest groups that want to make a killing. And then it's also very disheartening when the members of the National Assembly appear helpless, that they don't have a very solid understanding of what is happening. So a common person like Mora would fail to understand, how can we control this? Because you've got cartels, everybody knows there are cartels, everybody knows that special interest groups, and everybody knows that there is no transparency. Although the chairman of the committee has indicated there are no vendors yet been selected, but now the red flags are all over. One wonders, who in the administration is going to crack the whip? And you recall before the elections, there was a general comment that we needed to have a state capture commission. So it appears there are people in the middle of the administration whose economic interests are not aligned with national and public interests. Probably it's time to have something similar to the Zuma Commission in South Africa to understand really that these public procurements, to what extent do these vendors harm Mora's interests? And then alongside that, even when you talk about procurement of pharma, and I know Dr. Nyikala has more information to this, the cost of drugs in Kenya is obscene. That you may find maybe a tablet in Kenya, the recommended manufacturer's price would be maybe 10 Kenyan shillings, but in Kenya it's going for 50 shillings. While we say that we are a capitalist economy, you know, supply is supposed to meet demand, but some of those profits are obscene. And who bears the brunt? Poor Mura.
Poor Mura, and that is what these governors be very keen on addressing. I'd like to shift, because of time, to another story. Let's get a bit political, looking at the front page of the Daily Nation. Also, a picture there is the former Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua, and having joined us is Mheshimiwa Peter Masara, who is the Member of Parliament for Suna West Constituency. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
Maybe let me start with you, with the politics now that is shaping headlines at this particular morning. Looking at Gachagua, we have heard him, talking about the aftermath of his impeachment, and he has been very vocal about some of the going-ons that were happening in government when he was deputy president. Recently, the very latest was when he had an interview on one of the TV stations that has been captured quite properly on page 7 of the Daily Nation this morning, where Gachagua is making very serious confessions. But what is standing out is that he's saying he's going to expose President William Ruto to Kenyans, insisting that their fallout was due to his stand against the government support of unpopular policies. My question to you would be how he has conducted his life after the impeachment, and what seems to be him opening up now, things that he should have said when he was actually having power, when he was deputy president. Does that vindicate him or give him any sort of leeway to go scot-free? What do you think? Actually,
the person who should be held accountable and responsible for the messes in government should be Gachagua. He was the principal assistant to the president. And as you know, the country is too big and there are so many responsibilities the president has. He was supposed to do his work. If he failed to do his work, he should return even the money he was earning as a deputy president if he was not able to do what was expected of him. The right people usually speak when they are in the office, because that's when you have the authority. When you are out of the office, those are just sentiments to attract sympathy. And I sympathize with him. Even if he gets the sympathy of the entire country, cannot be elected anywhere. So I think Gachagua was misadvised. The kind of
you think he's playing the politics of sympathy?
Yes, he's playing the political sympathy, of which he cannot succeed, because we can't sympathize with somebody who was part and parcel of the bad happening and was quiet because he was earning by then. Now that he's not earning salary, he's speaking. Who is going to pay him for speaking now? We were paying him to speak when he was in the office. You know, if you look at Gachagua's character, it depicts somebody who the KANU system is enrooted in him to an extent that you cannot change him. And he doesn't want to change with the time. The politics of tribalism, the politics of divisive politics is long gone, because politics is a game of numbers. The more you are, the better opportunity for you to lead. And furthermore, Kenya, since Kenya is a multi-party democracy where everybody is needed on board, when you start playing the kind of politics Gachagua was doing, he was doomed to fail, because I was talking, don't touch the mountain. But we have even Mount Elgon, we have Mount Ogwasi, we have mountain in Kisii, in Suna West, we have Kirengo Mountain. So when he was just very specific about Central Province, that was not a very good picture for a deputy president of the Republic of Kenya.
Ms. Mwanyika, what do you think? Was Gachagua the problem? Are we now okay?
I voted for the impeachment of Gachagua on basically 2 reasons, and I think they are continuing those 2 reasons. One, he was divisive. He didn't give people the perception of one holding the nation together. He was the second in command. So that if anything to happen to the president, he would be there. And he didn't give an impression. If at the time, if you asked a small child in any part of the country what Gachagua meant when he said, my people, even the child would know he's not talking about all Kenyans. I found that totally unacceptable. And on that, that to me is the one reason I voted him. I voted again for his impeachment. Number two was the relationship between him and the president had become so bad that in principle it would actually be wrong to keep the two people in office to work together, because it is not going to work. He seemed to have been pursuing a course, probably looking into the future of his future politically, even to take over. And to me, that is what seems to be happening even now. He's still getting that attention. He's building himself. Don't think that if he's out, he's not building himself politically. Even those theatrics that you are seeing, they are actually very positive. In politics, anything that puts people in the limelight...
You think he's being dishonest? These are just theatrics? What he's doing now? If
he's honest, that he knows something that now he wants to say, which he didn't say when he was in government, that also speaks very badly of him. Because he was the principal assistant, so he should have told his boss, sir, in this one, this is going wrong, let's do this. If he says he knows something that the president was doing that now he wants to expose, he was abetting it.
All right.
He was abetting it.
Mheshimiwa Lote, I'm wondering, it's one thing to be the principal assistant and to speak to your boss, but it's totally another to listen and to create a conducive environment for you as a principal assistant to actually perform your role. Was that granted to Gachagua?
Well, I think Gachagua got everything that was required for the performance of the office of the deputy president. Gachagua was a problem by himself. In fact, the people sitting around Gachagua now need to rescue him from himself. Because him being the deputy president, he started to show signs that he wasn't able to perform. From the word go, when we were actually swearing in the president and the deputy president, he will not even read the oath of office. He actually had his own mind at that point. That showed that we were dealing with a person that had issues. And so, for the fact that at this point where Gachagua is out of office, he says that he wants to expose, tells you that the problem with Gachagua continues. Because in this country, and in countries over, if you believe that what your boss is doing is wrong, you better quit at that level. Do not wait until when you're out, then you tell us there was a problem in there. That is insincerity from Gachagua.
So he should have resigned?
He should have resigned from the word go if there was something that was done wrong by the president, William Ruto. Not when he's forced out. In fact, he didn't even walk out. He was forced out. And even now, he's still battling it in court to believe that he wasn't forced out. So for me, I will ask Gachagua and the people around him to ask him to cool his heels and to know that he's not the deputy president. Kenyans will listen to him fine because they believe probably the shenanigans that come out of him. But the truthful Kenyans will know that Gachagua is not as truthful as he says, because if he was truthful, he will have told us the things he wants to say now. What he says now is all vendetta, is everything that wants to mud the presidency of William Ruto. So I think Gachagua needs to be advised before he even run mad. He might run mad.
Oh, that's what a way to put it. Mokwa, how do you see it? Is it what the gentlemen are describing? He's calling it shenanigans. Mheshimiwa Nyekali is calling what Gachagua is doing theatrics. What do you think?
Absolutely. They're all correct because Honorable Gachagua is engaging in acts of misinformation and disinformation. We are made to believe that there's a concept called collective responsibility. That if you are in a cabinet, as members of the cabinet, you take a decision. Now, if you are unhappy with the decision-making process, then you air your views within the cabinet. When the president is chairing the meeting and you argue with your fellow members of the cabinet. Now, if for some reason the cabinet comes up with a resolution and you are unhappy with it because it says some of the policies are unacceptable, then what you do is you go to your current residence and call for a news conference and say, I'm unhappy with the Kenya Kwanza manifesto. I'm unhappy with the cabinet decisions because they don't serve Mura, they don't serve Wanjiro, they don't serve Alima. Therefore, I'm resigning. So if you're unhappy with the cabinet decisions, you don't wait for impeachment. You just take a walk. And we've had many Kenyans are doing that. At your place of work, you are unhappy with a memo, you say it was a nice doing business. You don't wait to get impeached. But again, on the flip side, political science students, leadership and governance students will be studying Gachagua as how not to become a deputy president or how to behave in the public office. Because now you cannot be part of a decision-making process. It's been communicated to all and sundry. Then you do news conferences. You start disassociating yourself from a decision you've made, maybe because you think it's unpopular or you want to secure some sympathy. In my view, it's unacceptable. And of course, we wouldn't be expecting that after going through the impeachment, he would actually go to a flower garden, pick red roses, and start giving them to the president, the deputy president, and members of the National Assembly and Senate to kick them out. In my view, what he's doing is seeking sympathy, which demonstrates one thing, that he's a very good politician, because he's now making Murah believe that the reason why he was kicked out of his position, he was fighting for Murah's interests. But in the contrary, he was fighting for his selfish interests, and he has all of a sudden discovered he's referring to himself as the savior because he no longer enjoys the perks associated with his office. Mm-hmm. And in my view, Kenyans should treat him with caution, and probably even the media should now start asking him deep questions, because when he takes a public podium and he says that very soon I'm going to expose Ruto, is he exposing the president of Kenya? Is he exposing the cabinet? And if he's exposing the cabinet, he will actually be exposing himself, because we saw all those dispatches and he was in the middle of those meetings.
All right. I want us to finalize with one quick one on the Adani deal. And what is emerging right now is that following the cancellation of this particular deal, it's on the back page of the Daily Nation, Treasury PS Chris Kiptoo has confirmed that the government is seeking a new investor to expand the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport following the cancellation of the controversial Adani deal. And he's saying, he told the National Assembly Public Accounts Committee that JKIA expansion and modernization will have to be undertaken through a public-private partnership arrangement that is now going to be undertaken competitively. We have a sound bite of Cabinet Secretary Junet Mohammed just to... All right.
You can't be.
I think we'll skip that. I wanted us to hear what his thoughts on the public participation issue is. But let me just allow you gentlemen to weigh in on this particular subject. Let me begin with you, Mheshimiwa.
Actually...
No, we actually have that soundbite. Let's listen in and then we can weigh in on this matter.
Serikali inachaguliwa ili ilete maendeleo kwa wananchi. Na kama serikali ikitaka kufanya kazi yake inawekewa vikwazo. Serikali lazima ifanye public participation, inafanya. Tena iombe ruhusa bunge, wanaomba. Tena waombe ruhusa kwa watu wa judiciary wa makotini, tena waombe kwa civil society, tena waombe ruhusa kwa watu wa kanisa. Serikali itafanya kazi siku gani? Serikali itafanya kazi siku gani? Wewe ukitaka kufanya vitu ya boma yako na bibi yako, unaomba watu ruhusa. Hata unaomba tu ruhusa mama. Unaweza omba mtoto yako, uombe baba yako, uende babu yako, unaweza fanya hivyo. Hii mambo ya kuomba ruhusa kwa kila mtu lazima ikwishe. Na mimi nimeongea kama mkubwa wa upinzani. Kwa sababu serikali haiwezi kuomba ruhusa mahakama ili wajenge stima, waombe kanisa ili wajenge stima, waombe civil society ili waombe stima. Juzi mliona wale wako Nairobi. Airport yetu iko mbaya sana. Imeharibika. Waekelezaji wametoka nje kuja kusaidia sisi kujenga hiyo airport. Rais akasema kama wananchi wamekataa, tumewacha. Sasa wale walikuwa wanapiga kelele, wapi maoni yenu, ambayo kwa sababu airport lazima itengenezwe. Nchi hapa jirani yenu Tanzania wanafanya ni hiyo mwekelezaji kwa hiyo airport yao. Hawa ni wazimu. Tanzania ni wazimu. Kichwa imeruka hawa.
Right. So you've heard, gentlemen, what Mheshimiwa he's saying with regards to the concept of public participation. This is where the rain started beating us. The issue of non-involvement of Kenyans on some of these major decisions that the government is making. I don't know what your reactions would be to what he was saying. Actually,
I want to say that public participation is a very important aspect of governance. One, it enhances transparency and involvement of the citizens in how their finances are being managed. While all over, people have gone public-private partnership. Let me give you a classical example, though at the initial stages it was opposed by many. This express highway. Do you remember during Uhuru's time? Many people were talking ill of the project, but today, actually, that is the best achievement of President Uhuru. He will remain to be remembered with that particular project. It has really helped me several times. Personally, I'm appreciating it. But you know, to be honest, less public participation was done. And when public participation is not done well, it brings the issue of trust deficit. People just think now this is a deal, especially in Kenya. In Kenya, you know, everything, including naming a child, very soon will be a scandal. How did you name your child? After who and why? So what do we need to do moving forward? Me, I'm somebody who is optimistic. And what we need to do as a country, and this particular case of Adani should be a wake-up call for the current cabinet, the executive. I'm wondering what it costs to inform the public and invite the public on a noble idea which you want to implement. Actually, the undoing of the current regime is the issue of rushing important decisions.
Right.
And I believe now that we are in the midterm, moving forward, they have learned their lessons. We must build JKA as a Kenyan. You know, it was done a long time ago, and we are competing with other countries.
Which is a given. The issue is the how.
Yes, the how. Now, they need to start. For example, now when the PS was talking that they need to look for another investor. Now, let them start by inviting people in an open forum.
All right.
And then involve the Kenyan, because at the end of the day, there'll be the Kenyan people will pay the burden. So they need to know and be prepared, and then they compare and contrast and accept that moving forward, this is the way to go, public-private partnership, but it should be with a lot of transparency.
All right.
My colleague, Honorable Junet, is my neighbor. I'm from Suna West, he's from Suna East, and is the leader of minority in the National Assembly. Where he was, that was a rally. And in a rally, at times what we say in rallies may translate to something else. But he was somehow right, except the actual meaning of what he was saying is the only person who can give us. But from where I see,
so how would you say he was right? Yes. The meaning is unclear. How would you
in politics,
right?
in politics, when you are talking, because you are the person who want to deliver the message, you have the actual meaning of your messages. So when you are given opportunity to expound, you can expound. But the truth of the matter is, in a family, you can't ask children. You can't ask everybody. But in the public life, you know, in the family, in the context of the family, that's private life. That's your family. But in the public context, I think if he meant children and any other person as judiciary and what, the members of the public must be asked, because it is in the Constitution that public must participate on how they are being governed.
Well said, Mheshimiwa Masara. I don't know what you think, Nikal, what the Suna East MP said.
Let's start
not waste time.
Let's start with the concept of public participation. I like basics. How did the concept of government start? You know, we shouldn't think that government is something that came from heaven and is there, and the people are there, and now it is trying to do things for people. The government starts with the principle that people, even in a small place, decided that together we want to do things because there are things we can't do individually. If that is the concept of government and governance, then public participation is a must. If you are elected at whatever position and you want to do things, who are you doing them for? For yourself? Because you have been elected? You are doing it for people. And if you are doing it for people, shouldn't they know what you are doing for them and how you are doing it for them? And remember, you are using their money. You can't argue about public participation.
It's not a question.
It is something that is just been written, but it was there. Now, the public-private partnership. Again, we must never confuse principle with failures or faults of implementation. Public-private participation is a good thing if it is done. What we have, even in the case of Adani, is it being done properly? Are we looking at everything in detail? If you implement a principle badly, it's not the principle that is wrong. Even medicine, let me use you as a doctor. If you can use the correct medicine, but if you use it badly, it will harm the patient. Yeah. So it's not the medicine that is wrong. So in Adani, for example, if they find that it is not proper partner, you look for another one. If the process was not right, you go for the correct process. My concern about Adani, I'm happy that they're looking at it about the airport. They're looking at it about the power transmission. But I'm still concerned because there was also a mention about it in SHA, and that has not come out. And it is something that giving us. I still want more. We need to know more about Adani in all areas.
In all areas.
Yeah, but all the principle is okay. And about Junet, the principle he was also using is right. But you know, when you are in a rally, there are many things you are addressing. You are even addressing the mood of the rally.
So
you are addressing the mood of the rally. So I think we leave it at that, but the principles should never be confused.
All right.
With
the process. Mukua, quickly,
Safin, I think I cannot agree more with my colleague Junet Mohammed. I cannot agree more. I think what he says is as plain as it is. Let me tell you, Safin, when Kibaki came into power, the first time he had a very robust ideas in terms of how to transform this country. And if all the things that Kibaki did were subjected to public participation, and I do not, let me put it on record, I do not disagree with public participation. In fact, Article number 118 of our Constitution B specifically talk about how we need to involve our public in terms of how we manage our country. And I think Kenyans, when they sat down at Bomas to draft this constitution, they specifically thought about how everybody was going to give a voice into the development and management of this government. But there are things that if we were subjected to public participation, it would not have seen the light of the day. Let me give you an example. Mishuki, for example, when he came to try to bring order into the Matatu business. If Mishuki public order in the management of our public transport was put into public participation, it will not have seen the light of the day. It did it as a dictator at the time. Let me just use that term. And up to now, we remember Mishuki as a person that never flipped in terms of what he wanted to do.
What about issues of today, like Adani?
I'm coming there because I'm giving some bit of background. Even when Thika Road was being constructed,
let's use.
We'll come there, but let's important that we learn from history. When we were doing the Thika Road, people complained about the cost of Thika Road. In fact, people say Kibaki was ripping this country off. But now everybody still talks about Thika Road as one of the project that was done by Kibaki that we will always remember him for. So sometimes, if we look at our neighbors, and I think, I'm sorry to say that Kenyans, we are losing our foot as the regional leader in East Africa. Ethiopia is overtaking us. Ethiopia is building a very big airport. In fact, one of the biggest airports, and it's doing it through the PPP that we're seeing. Rwanda, a very small country, is actually overtaking Kenyans. If you look at Tanzania, I want to go there, because if you look at this country, they are somehow dictatorial. If you look at Kagame, and if you look at these wars in Ethiopia, and even Tanzania, everything is not subjected entirely to public participation. And so in this country, if what Junet says is that you have to go to the public, and then somebody will go to court has to give you a permission to continue now. If we go that way, we are going to lose our stake as the regional lead. So public participation is accepted, but I think it should be accepted to some levels. And the reason why, when he says, tusiombe ruhusa kila mtu, he knows that when we start giving here to everybody, we will never move, even in your house.
Mukua, is that ruhusa important?
You know, in my view, the reason why you need these public-private partnerships is to get private capital. So you get technical and financial support. And in my view, public participation is not negotiable. It's a must. You're doing these things for the citizens. However, it must come with a caveat. There are special interest groups and cartels cannot be allowed to use public participation to stall projects. We know that in Kenya, if you're participating, say, in a procurement process and you lose, then you can go hide in the cloak of public participation to frustrate a process. And also some of the examples that Honorable has given, we cannot use those examples. Because Kenya, we have decided that we are a multi-party democracy. We place a huge value on our constitution, and that is the path that we must run with.
All right. On that note, we are going to be taking a break. On Daybreak, we are coming back with our conversation on the IEBC dilemma in just a bit. Don't go too far and continue engaging us on social media at Safin_Cheng at Citizen TV Kenya.